I often introduce myself as a process person. I have a huge sales background, and I really enjoyed operations. I enjoyed processes. I enjoyed planning. I loved to discover mistakes, not because I'd like to beat people up over mistakes. A mistake was an opportunity for me to get to do something that I really enjoyed, which is understand the source of the mistake. How did this happen? I have a tenet that says that if your processes are set up properly, at least three people have to fail in order for a mistake to happen. So if you're a project-based business and you're worried about forgetting to put something on the show or overlooking a detail or not booking a supplier, a good process means that you've got checks and balances in there that takes care of all those things. Multiple people are looking at it. It may be your job, but if you fail for whatever reason, somebody else is there looking at, hey, Tom, do you have time to do that? Can I take care of that for you? We're really running out of time. And in any good process based organization, you need multiple people looking at the big picture so that they can see when something's breaking down. We do this on show side all the time. I mean, if we could just run our businesses the way that we run shows, how much easier would life be? But here we are in 2025. We have all these software platforms, all this software as a service at our fingertips, and we still struggle. Here I am 40 years later in my career. I still find that we are struggling with having a single source of truth of information. There's too many competing sources. There's too many philosophies and mindsets. But I see hope. It is right at our fingertips. It is right around the corner. If we can change our mindsets, we have the tools available to allow you to choose the single source of truth for your business, the keeper of all the information that matters, okay, if you will do one extra thing for me. Stay tuned.
Welcome to your weekly dose of uncommon sense, helpful insights, and tough love. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. The Intentional Success Podcast comes to you through the generous support of Mertz Crew.
Mertz Crew helps top AV companies book quality AV freelancers. Your choice, your rates. We handle contracts, insurance, and payments. You save time, cost, and reduce risk. Start today at mertzcrew.com.
Now on to the show.
It's never easy. I mean, nothing's ever going to be perfect. I doubt we'll ever get to the point where you're going to put information into the computer and it's going to gravitate forward and populate every place that is possibly needed. As sophisticated as we are in healthcare these days, and I can, register an appointment with my doctor online and see my prescriptions and get my tests all in an app on my phone, I still show up at the doctor's office and fill out the same intake forms that I did online an hour before in person on a piece of paper on a clipboard. Some things are just never going to be as perfect as we want them to be. Yet, as operations and process people, we do need to move forward. We do need to find a way to get continually better. And so we often discuss in our businesses, what is the single source of truth on a project or an order? And I want to talk about that today. I just want to share some current thinking, where we are, what are the best practices that I'm seeing? What am I telling my clients that they should gravitate towards based on their individual situations? And I want to share some of that with you because I think we need a bigger discussion about this. I have worked with clients. I worked with a client who I can't remember how many it was. It was 12 or 16 different software platforms that the entire team had to touch on every single project. It was insane. And, God bless him. I think he's down to 3, which is about the least we can do unless you're just a rental company. But if you're in any kind of services, if you can get it down to 3, you're doing pretty darn good. So let's talk about software. Let's talk about where our information goes into a system. The simplest model any of us run, at least the people who care to listen to my podcasts, is just a rental company. It's a transactional business, and a rental could be a very simple thing. It can be a delivery setup. It can be even a small event. But the fact of the matter is, you check the gear out, you check the gear back in. The client is paying a rental fee, maybe some delivery, maybe some labor. And honestly, that's probably 80% of the transactions we do in our industry are some sort of rental-based transaction. So we can't ignore them. And if you're in a small market or you're a young business, this is probably most of what you do. What do you need? You know what? Accounting software. I mean, my goodness. I'd say most of the people that I work with run QuickBooks, right? That's the ubiquitous software. There's other things out there. There's big platforms, there's small ones, there's lots of software, but QuickBooks has become the Kleenex of accounting software. If we say QuickBooks, we mean whatever accounting software you happen to be using. So if I say QuickBooks, whatever accounting software you're using, you can run your whole business on it. I tell you what, if you looked at QuickBooks, you can open it up, you can write a quote, you can put products in there. You can run your rental business on there. And I have seen folks do that. I know lots of people who do that. You can do inventory management in QuickBooks. Is it sexy? No, it's accounting software. Come on. It's designed for selling widgets. If you're running a small manufacturing thing, it's great at LIFO and FIFO. You can, get a shipment of products in, dump them into the inventory and sell them off. It's set up for that. But rental inventory and rental inventory management and tracking, maybe not so much, but the fact of the matter is you can do it if you want to. So many of us have had a rental management software system as well. And if you're a transactional business, that's all you need. And rental management software, you can open it up, you can write a quote, you can check availability, you can generate some reports to see how often your tripod screens are renting for you, or whatever it is that floats your boat. It probably has some utilities in there that you may or may not need. Maybe it will let you write a purchase order. It certainly will have some sort of database of customers, clients, suppliers, things like that in there. So it'll store some data for you, and you could probably run most of your business off of it. If you're doing generating invoices and doing payables, receivables out of that, there's a chunk of your accounting work that you can do. Maybe the rest of it you can do on a piece of paper in a ledger book. But most of us, we're going to end up with some sort of rental management system because it'll meet most of our needs in QuickBooks. Now, once you start moving more into projects, and a project is one, they have a longer life. It takes more time to develop a yes from the customer. A rental transaction, we can give them a quote on the phone. We send a quote in an email. It's yes or no, I need it, I don't need it. Can you get it to this price? I'll take it. But when we're talking about events and shows, the process is a little bit more convoluted, it takes a little bit longer. And sometimes we may talk with somebody for months, at least weeks, before we actually get to the point where we're writing them a quote. And even so, it may take a longer time for them to agree. And it may go through lots of changes and iterations, unlike a rental, which generally, hey, do you have something that does this? Yes, we rent this. It costs this. Here you go. Shows have more moving parts, so it takes more time. Now, can you run rental management software in QuickBooks and cover that business? Absolutely. Of course you can. It just means that every time you have an opportunity for a project, you have to create an order inside the rental management system as a placeholder so that it isn't now becomes part of your sales funnel. And what it means is that forever, at least until the date passed, and even maybe long after that, somebody in operations is going to ask every single week, is this show going to happen? When are you going to put something in this show? There's no labor in this show. There's no equipment in this show. All right. When is it going to change? And now you get into this realm where you've taken sales information, which is critical to your success in building a sales funnel, and you've put it into rental management software. And now the rental management people are going, what is this thing doing in here? And we immediately start a conflict between sales and operations. And even on shows where we have lots of information, but the show has not confirmed, we're constantly in that conflict. Is this show going to happen? Yes, but it's not going to be exactly like this. Well, is it going to be a lot like this? Well, for a given value of a lot, and you have these silly conversations. Now, It is, in this example, the single source of truth, because unless the salespeople are withholding information from the order that they've started, which they're always going to be accused of if there's nothing in the order, then we don't have a single source of truth. There's a notepad somewhere with a lot of information, or a little private database of information somewhere. The solution for many companies at that point is now to develop a customer relationship management platform, a CRM, or maybe a project software where all projects go in there and they don't go into the rental management system until we're estimating or quoting equipment, labor, technicians, that sort of thing. So now what is the single source of truth? Is it the project management software or is it the rental management system? Okay. Either one can be right. However, in a project-based business, it also does a lot of rentals, but it does some shows. Typically the rental management system is going to end up being the single source of truth because that's where most of the people are working in it, and that is the language of your business. Let's go one step deeper. We've talked about rental transactions, we talked about projects, but what if you're in the services business, particularly if you do creative services for your clients? There is a show in there. There's a project that is the show. We need equipment, we need labor, we need trucks. There's sub rentals, yada, 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 all that normal stuff. But part of the project is also services. So we've got creative, we've got people doing drawings, we have folks creating animation, people shooting video, we have editing going on over here. We've got writers, we have graphic artists, we have design. There are multiple things going on that don't appear in the rental management software as a work in progress. There are management softwares for those professions somewhere else. So if you're in creative services production, you run any one of a number of platforms that industry uses to track projects, one of which could be a rental. Now, those types of organizations need a project software platform that reaches over all of the individual management platforms. So if we think of rental transactions and project management and RMS as task management, what is the overall project management? Because the animators have a task management or project coordination software package. They're managing multiple projects. They have multiple works in progress with priorities and change orders. They're tracking that in a system. The producers are tracking another system. The writers are tracking in another system. What's the parent of all of those systems? Now, more than ever, you do need a single source of truth, and that's generally going to be your project management software. That relegates your rental management software as a task software. The single source of truth just moved up into the higher platform. Now, this changes how we manage and share information. So, 3 basic services, right? We've got the rental service, very simple. You can run the whole thing in QuickBooks. You can have a rental management or inventory management system in front of that. You can weight it 80-20 rental system to accounting, or you can rate it 20-80 rental system to accounting. You can put the detail any place that you want. You can port as much information over into QuickBooks as you want. My advice is port as little as you possibly can. But my point is, it doesn't matter. Pick one and you run with it. Once you get into projects, now we've got to say which one is in charge. If we're project-based and we're running a rental management software system, that's going to be our single source of truth. We have to learn how to use it as project management software. You might have customer relationship management in front of that. You may developing leads and prospects and opportunities. And once there's an opportunity, then we're creating an order in your rental management system and we're moving forward from there, right? But when we get into more complex services, creative services, where we're doing content, we're doing design, lots of pre-production, you're basically a consultant for the customer for 3, 6, or 9 months before the project. And oh, by the way, there is a transaction at the end of it that looks like a rental plus labor, just like everything else. Now the single source of truth has got to be in a project management platform that accesses either through redundant entry direct entry, or whatever it might be, all the other individual task platforms that manage the work, all the different types of works that go on in a major services project. So what is our Holy Grail? The Holy Grail would be to have a ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning Platform, that does all of these things. And yeah, you can argue that there are some out there that can be adapted to what we do, but the fact of the matter, it doesn't exist, not on our terms, because we're much too small of an industry to warrant an entire platform. However, we are getting closer and closer to having full project management, maybe a little bit of CRM and rental management and services all in one platform. If we have project management and I have a way to manage the individual creative services within that project management system, and I can do any kind of a transaction and sub-transaction and outsource transaction and the rental management portion, we're approaching what would be our ERP, except for probably accounting. Why do we need to reinvent accounting? We don't. In order to incorporate your accounting system into your ERP, okay, you would have to write an accounting system that lives with the ERP. The reason people don't do this, and for those of you who don't understand, is you can't. If everybody knows that if you use QuickBooks and QuickBooks decides to change something in their software because they're constantly improving it, tweaking it, adding features, it almost always breaks whatever other things you have it connected to, whether it's connected where it automatically maps things to and from your rental management system, whether it maps things to or from your CRM or your payroll system or your credit cards. Those things are going to break because that software platform is what rules. When it changes, everything else will break because they are not integrated. If you integrated accounting software in a specialized industry like ours, then somebody has to maintain an accounting package inside of an ERP for a very, very small industry. And it's just not practical. Nobody wants to do it. I don't blame them. So reconcile yourself to the fact that you're always going to have some sort of accounting software on the back end. Now, can you get more of the ERP environment into one product? Yeah, you certainly can. But you can also accomplish much of the same thing through a project management system that can talk to your subsystems, one of which might be your rental management system. Can we port some information from one to another? Most of them have APIs, which allows you to do that. There's plenty of tools available to do that with very light programming skills. And that leaves us one extra piece, which is the customer relationship management software. Now, if I can get customer relationship management and project management packaged together, and I can have rental management as a subsystem, then my single source of truth is always going to be the front end. It's going to be the CRM project management system. All the information, everything I need to know about the event will go in there. The details of which parts and pieces we are going to send, what exact SKUs and kits are going to get put on the truck, will be part of the rental management system. Now, can I take that information and put it back into the project management system so everybody can see? Absolutely. I can put my show book in the project management system. You see how it all works together. So, in order for you to reconcile all the disparate rental management systems and service systems and softwares that you're running in your business, you have to decide what is the single source of truth for a company like yours, for the business that you're in. And if you are a rental business or a small show business and you are struggling with multiple software platforms, simplify, simplify, simplify. If you're providing broader services, you're going to have to invest in more robust project management systems, and you're going to have to be able to use them throughout the organization, because that is going to be the master source of truth on any project. Every project, everybody who touches the project is going to have to be able to go into that system to do part of their job. So that's the journey that we're on. Will our dedicated systems get better and better for us? I've been watching this for a long time. They are so much better. Are they ever going to be perfect? No, they're not. They're always going to frustrate you with how they do something differently than how you wanted to do, or how they work differently from the software you used last time, or why they don't work for you in this one particular circumstance because you built your processes this way. I'll leave you with this other mantra that I have, this other tenet that I have, is that we can't change software. If you adopt a software platform, use it the way it was intended to be used, and your life will be so much better. When you move into a new rental management system, you're going to have to change the way your internal processes function, both on the sales side and on the operations side. If they're both inside the same platform, everything's going to have to change, work the way the software was intended to work, and your life is going to be so much better. But before you make that big change, let's decide what your single source of truth is and how are you going to manage that, because that is where the most time and energy needs to go. That's what's going to keep you successful, keep the customers happy, make the shows and transactions go as well as they possibly can. There you go. Let me step off my soapbox. I love talking about process, but today process and software are the same thing. It's ubiquitous. Get on board, master these tools. You'll thank me later. Go get them. Thanks, guys.
If you liked this episode of the Intentional Success Podcast, please leave a review and don't forget to like and subscribe. This podcast has been brought to you by the helpful folks at Mertz Crew.